Good morning and welcome to This Day in History, October 16th. Ordinarily, I like to put my notes on pages on iCloud and then I bring them up on the screen right there and go through them. But for some reason today iCloud seems to be down, completely inaccessible. DNS something or other. Anyway, I have printed them out, so I'll be going from printed notes today. This mug, by the way, is in honor and recognition of Richard Bowers, who had a great deal to do with the North Plains Groundwater Conservation District. He also had something to do with law in Texas about groundwater. He passed away unexpectedly a few years ago, and they have dedicated a conservation learning center to his honor. And we were there because my sweetheart is related to the Bowers. Happy coffee, Richard. Alrighty, let's get on with today's business. October 16, we're going to start back in 1758 when American lexicographer, textbook pioneer, English language spelling reformer, political writer, editor, and prolific author Noah Webster was born in West Hartford, Connecticut on this day in 1758. Referred to as the father of American scholarship and education, his blue-backed speller books taught 5 generations of American children how to spell and read, and his name has become synonymous with dictionary in the United States. He died in 1843 at the age of 84. In 1793, Marie Antoinette was beheaded. Yikes. 9 months after the execution of her husband, the former King Louis XVI of France, Marie Antoinette follows him to the guillotine. The daughter of the Holy Roman Emperor Francis I, she married Louis in 1770 to strengthen the French-Austrian alliance. At a time of economic turmoil in France, she lived extravagantly and encouraged her husband to resist reform of the monarchy. In one episode, she allegedly responded to news that the French peasantry had no bread to eat by callously replying, "Let them eat cake." The increasing revolutionary uproar convinced the king and queen to attempt an escape to Austria in 1791, but they were captured by revolutionary forces and carried back to Paris. In 1792, the French monarchy was abolished, and Louis and Marie Antoinette were condemned for treason. In 1815, the 9th governor of Texas, Francis Lubbock, was born in Beaufort, South Carolina, and when I read that name I thought, oh, Lubbock, Texas. But actually it was his brother, Thomas Lubbock, for whom Lubbock County and the city of Lubbock are named. Francis died in 1905 at the age of 89. 1846, the first public demonstration of general anesthesia by William T. G. Morton on October 16, 1846, in the Ether Dome of the Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston. 1847, Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre is published in London. Charlotte used a pseudonym, Currer Bell. The book was written about the struggles of an orphan girl who grows up to be a governess, and it was an immediate and popular success. On October 16, 1854, an obscure lawyer and congressional hopeful from the state of Illinois named Abraham Lincoln delivered a speech regarding the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which Congress had passed 5 months earlier. In his speech, the future president denounced the act and outlined his views on slavery, which he called immoral. Under the terms of the Kansas-Nebraska Act, 2 new territories, Kansas and Nebraska, would be allowed into the Union, and each territory's citizens would be given the power to determine whether slavery would be allowed within the territory's borders. It was believed that the act would set a precedent for determining the legality of slavery in other new territories. Controversy over the act influenced political races across the country that fall. Abolitionists like Lincoln hoped to convince lawmakers in the new territories to reject slavery. Also in 1854, the celebrated writer Oscar Wilde was born. Oscar Wilde was born on October 16, 1854 in Dublin, Ireland. He grew up in Ireland and went to England to attend Oxford, where he graduated with honors in 1878. A popular society figure known for his wit and flamboyant style, he published his own book of poems in 1881. He spent a year lecturing on poetry in the United States, where his dapper wardrobe and excessive devotion to art drew ridicule from some quarters. He was a pretty boy, I'll tell you. He died in 1900 at the age of 46. In 1859, abolitionist John Brown, with 21 men, seized the U.S. Armory at Harper's Ferry, Virginia. U.S. Marines captured the raiders, killing several. John Brown was later hanged in Virginia for treason. In 1901, President Theodore Roosevelt incited controversy by inviting black leader Booker T. Washington to the White House. In 1923, the Walt Disney Company was founded. Walt Disney and his brother Roy founded the Disney Brothers Cartoon Studio in Hollywood, California. The studio, now known as the Walt Disney Company, has had a huge impact on the entertainment industry and is now one of the largest media companies in the world. In 1925, English-American actress and singer Angela Lansbury was born in London, England. She has acted in many plays and movies, but is particularly known for her portrayal of Jessica Fletcher in the Murder, She Wrote TV series. 1934, The Long March begins. Basically, the gist of it is that the Chinese communists and the Chinese nationalists were fighting, and the nationalists had the communists surrounded, but somehow the communists managed to break up and slip out, and golly, there were like 86,000 troops, 15,000 personnel, and 35 women that slipped out and started out across the country on foot. They crossed 24 rivers, 18 mountain ranges, mostly snow-capped, and only 4,000 troops completed the trip. Of the ones that didn't complete the trip, most of them died on the way. It was the longest continuous march in the history of warfare and marked the emergence of Mao Zedong as an undisputed leader of the Chinese communists. Eventually, Mao proclaimed the People's Republic of China and served as its chairman until his death in 1976. 1938, Billy the Kid, a ballad by Aaron Copland, opens in Chicago. In 1946, Nazi war criminals are executed. At Nuremberg, Germany, 10 high-ranking Nazi officials were executed by hanging for their crimes against humanity, crimes against peace, and war crimes during World War II. Among those was Alfred Rosenberg, the primary fabricator and disseminator of Nazi ideology. In 1946, American actress Suzanne Summers was born in San Bruno, California. In 1958, Chevrolet introduced the El Camino. On October 16, 1958, Chevrolet began to sell a car-truck hybrid that it called the El Camino. Inspired by the Ford Ranchero, which had already been on the market for 2 years, the El Camino was a combination sedan pickup truck built on the Impala body, with the same cat's eye tail lights and dramatic rear fins. So it was released in 1958, but it was actually a 1959 model. It was, adds trilled, the most beautiful thing that ever shouldered a load. It rides and handles like a convertible, Chevy said, yet hauls and hustles like the workingest thing on wheels. Ford's Ranchero was the first car truck sold in the United States. It was not a new idea. Since the 1930s, Australian farmers had been driving what they called utes, short for coupe utility, all around the outback. Legend has it that a farmer's wife from rural Victoria had written a letter to Ford Australia asking the company to build a car that could carry her to church on Sundays and her husband's pigs to market on Mondays. In response, Ford engineer Louis Brandt designed a low-slung sedan-based vehicle that was a ritzy passenger car in the front with wind-up windows and comfortable seats and a rough-and-tumble pickup in back. The Ute was a huge hit. Eventually, virtually every company that sold cars down under made its own version. In the United States, however, Ute-type vehicles were slower to catch on. Though the Ranchero was a steady seller, the first incarnation of the El Camino was not, and Chevy discontinued it after just 2 years. In 1964, the company introduced a new version, this one built on the brawnier Chevelle platform. In 1968, the more powerful SS engine made the El Camino into one of the iconic muscle cars of the late 60s and 70s. In 1987, Chevrolet dropped the El Camino lineup for good, and today the car is a cult classic. 1964, China joins the A-bomb club. People's Republic of China joined the rank of nations with atomic bomb capability after a successful nuclear test on this day in 1964. China is the fifth member of this exclusive club, joining the United States, the Soviet Union, Great Britain, and France. In 1973, Henry Kissinger and Le Duc Tho were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for negotiating the Paris Peace Accords. Kissinger accepted, but Tho declined the award until such time as peace is truly established. 1978, the first non-Italian to win the papacy since 1523. 1981, Israeli general, politician, fifth minister of foreign affairs for Israel, Moshe Dayan, died. In 1984, Desmond Tutu won the Nobel Peace Prize. 1987, baby Jessica rescued from a well as the world watches. Well, I sure remember this. On October 16, 1987, in an event that had viewers around the world glued to their televisions, 18-month-old Jessica McClure is rescued after being trapped for 58 hours in an abandoned water well in Midland, Texas. The drama unfolded on the morning of October 14, 1987, when McClure fell through the 8-inch wide opening of an abandoned well while playing with other children in the backyard of her aunt's home daycare center. After dropping about 22 feet into the well, the little girl became stuck. Over the next 2.5 days, crews of rescue workers, mining experts, and local volunteers labored around the clock to drill a shaft parallel to the one in which McClure was trapped. They then tunneled horizontally through dense rock to connect the two shafts. A microphone was lowered into the well to keep tabs on the toddler, who could be heard crying, humming, and singing throughout the ordeal. On the night of October 16th, I might well up on this one. On the night of October 16, a bandaged and dirt-covered but alert baby Jessica, as she became widely known, was safely pulled out of the well by paramedics. By that time, scores of journalists had descended on Midland, a West Texas oil city, and rescue was carried out on live television before a massive audience. After her rescue, she was hospitalized for more than a month and lost a toe to gangrene. She and her family were flooded with gifts and cards from well-wishers and received a visit from Vice President George H.W. Bush and a phone call from President Ronald Reagan. Once out of the hospital, McClure went on to lead a normal life, spent largely out of the public spotlight. She graduated from high school in 2004, married 2 years later, became a mother, and in 2011, at age 25, she gained access to a trust fund that had been established following her rescue and made up of donations from people around the world. I think that's going to do it for us today. We rescued a baby right at the end. Thank you so much for watching. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And feel free to share this video if you found it interesting, entertaining. As always, links to my research are in the description along with the postal address if you'd like to send me a coffee mug. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. On October, okay, with the notifications. And there's the trash man. It's Wednesday, so trash man comes on Wednesday. Roman numerals. There's a reason we don't use them anymore. Sure would be nice if I could ever read one of these in its entirety without having to start anything over. That would be awesome. Let's see if we can use any of that. What is wrong with my mouth today? Oh my. I knew I'd remember it sooner or later. Wake up, little screen. We're not done yet. 1927? Oh boy, we got our years mixed up. I might have to take another look at that, but I missed that part. Oh, dang it. I forgot to put his name in there. I'm going to have to look at that. So, plumbing happens. This is why I don't do live shows.